now is when the fun really begins. So if you missed the first 10 minutes where I promised ahead of time that was going to be the most fun, it's a bait and switch. You guys hopped on. We gave away some gift cards to Pactimo, but we're thrilled. As a team, I'm wearing the jersey. There are about 5 of us dads in each of our rides. So 5 in Arizona with Ryan, 5 of us out in the Front Range in Colorado, 5 in, actually I take that back, there's 15 of us in Minneapolis because we have a few teams. There's 5 in Philadelphia and there's 5 in New York who are the leadership team who have said, hey, we want to make this thing happen. We want to make this dream of rallying dads to do something hard, to ride 100 miles on behalf of the fatherless. There's 5 like leaders that all got their jerseys like today. They came in the mail. So I thought I'd throw mine on. This is not normal for my Zoom calls to throw on spandex, but it's kind of fun. So if you guys spot those guys training rides and out and about in their this year's jersey, it's because they're putting in time and recruiting and helping pull volunteers in and planning and sponsorships. So all that kind of stuff. So that's the lead team got these early. The rest of you guys are going to get them in waves based on what city you're in. But I thought I'd throw it on for fun. Just as a reminder before I throw the conversation to Pastor Mark Batterson is guys, we are doing this ride for a very specific purpose. We believe that kids that are fatherless, little boys, little girls, kids that do not have a dad in their life, that we want to see them experience the love of Jesus. We want to see them experience just from housing to food to care. We want to show care. So that's why we're doing this ride, guys. We are dads who care about the fatherless. And we believe that's right at the center of God's heart. And that's right at the center of all of our heart. And we're going to do that instead of just writing a check individually. We're rallying our friends and we're doing this bike ride because we believe that by doing something hard in brotherhood, the impact goes so much further, both to the kids who are fatherless, both local and global, but also in our lives. We are changed by doing something hard, by rallying together around a cause that's important. And as we know, it's an epidemic, fatherlessness. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for being on this team. This is the first ever gathering of our whole team together. And as a way to just be an excuse to pull us all together, I asked my friend, Pastor Mark Batterson out in DC, I said, hey, would you hop on? And well, actually, if you go back a step before even that intro, I had a chance on the podcast, Dad Awesome, that I host, to interview Mark and just to talk about fatherhood, talk about his heart for being an intentional dad, but also resourcing and cheering on other intentional dads. Right at the center of what I get to do full time now for ministry with Dad Awesome and Fathers for the Fatherless. But it resonated with his heart, hearing the vision enough that he's like, can I fly out to Minnesota to do the ride with you guys? And can I gift my book to every guy on the team, just as a way to say, hey, I love that you're doing this 100-mile ride. I love that you're for the fatherless and for intentional fatherhood. So I'm so grateful, Mark, for you and your generosity to all of us, giving your book away, for your willingness to fly out and do 100 miles. And collectively, from all of our rides this year, the whole tour, we're all thankful for the free gift of your book. And we wanted to hear about it a little bit. And I thought we'd just start the time by inviting you to share for about, take 10 or 15 minutes. And you just give us a flyover of why, before the book, why are you doing this crazy thing with us, Fathers for the Fatherless? And then secondly, would you just help us give kind of an overview, because we haven't all read your book yet, but just an overview of why did you write this book and how could it be impactful to us as dads who are riding 100 miles? So you can just unmute yourself and then dive right in.
Love it. Hey, thanks, Jeff. Good to see everybody tonight. I just want to say for the record that 188,000 bikes, I think half of them are stolen in DC. Okay. We've had 3 cars stolen. We live on Capitol Hill, but our bikes disappear pretty quick here. And Jeff, we all know that you sleep in that shirt, so it's okay for you to just kind of admit that it's a brotherhood here. Hey, just out of curiosity, how many guys on the call have biked a century? Let me see that hand. Or if you're like a pro Zoomer and you know how to do that raised hand feature. How many are doing first century? Let me see your hands. Okay. I'm half raising my hand because a couple of years ago, this is just a little bit of backstories, and then we'll jump into win the day. Nothing I love more than being a dad. In fact, at the end of the day, I want to be famous in my home. And when my boys turned 13, I did a little rite of passage with them, did a year of discipleship that included a mental, spiritual, and physical challenge. And so with my oldest son, I ran a triathlon, and that was pretty fun training for it. And then with my young gun, we trained for a bike century. But Jeff, I don't know, my street cred may go way down right here. We did bike a century if we were in Canada and it was measured in kilometers, okay? Now I know Minnesota is a little south of that border. We didn't quite make it to 100 miles. And so for me, this is a little bit of redemption. We did the 100 kilometers, which I guess would be 63 miles. But guys, I'm so excited about this. I don't know how everybody's wired, but I need a challenge that I can train for. Otherwise, I am gonna couch surf because I need something that motivates me. And so, Jeff, just on behalf of everybody on this call and everybody that's going to sign up, thank you. I think we're going to be in better shape, and we're going to live longer, and we're going to be a part of a cause because of the vision that God gave you. And you know, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. And so I know I'm on a call with a bunch of guys that have rallied around you and around this vision, and count me in. I'm in your corner, and I'm excited about this. I was born in Minneapolis, and so this is an opportunity for me to, I guess, on the home turf, come back and do something I haven't done before and bike 100 miles. So let me take a couple of minutes, and excited about getting this book, Win the Day, in your hands. I'll do a quick little flyover. I have a simple, well, let me say this first of all. If we were in an elevator and we were only riding up one floor, here would be my elevator pitch on one floor. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery. Win the day. That's how I've tried to live my life. You got to live each day like it's the first day and last day of your life. You've got to live in date-tight compartments. That is easier said than done, but it is a very biblical concept, right? Give us this day our daily bread. Now, we wish it was give us this month our monthly bread, or give us this year our yearly bread, but it's daily bread. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. His mercies are new every morning. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. It's this idea of living in day-tight compartments. And I think it's so empowering, guys, because I get overwhelmed, like when I think about long-term goals, like that can be pretty overwhelming. Like, how am I going to bike 100 miles, right? Well, we all know the answer to that. 1 mile at a time, one day at a time. Like, we're going to have to reverse engineer it. And some of us push ourselves harder than we've ever pushed ourselves to be able to get there. But I love that, because it's an opportunity to go after something that is a stretch goal for a lot of us. And so, pretty simple premise. Almost anyone can do almost anything if they work at it long enough, hard enough, and smart enough. And I really believe that. Now, if you're 5'7" and you want to play in the NBA, the odds are against you. But don't tell me it can't be done, because Spud Webb won the 1986 dunk contest, okay? And he was 5'7". So all of us kind of have a different degree of difficulty when it comes to this challenge, but I'm excited. I think we're all going to rise to the challenge, and doing it together is a pretty special thing. So win the day, 7 habits. You have to flip the script. If you want to change your life, you have to change your story. We'll double back to that and talk about that for a minute. Kiss the wave. The obstacle is not the enemy. The obstacle is the way. And we'll talk for a minute about that one. And then when you get a little bit further into the book, you're going to have to eat the frog. If you're going to bike 100 miles, you're going to have to eat the frog. You have to do the hardest thing first and really discipline yourself. Fly the kite is habit number 4. You have to cut the rope. You have to wind the clock. Life isn't measured. Time is measured in minutes, but life is measured in moments. And by the way, on that one, like, Jeff, what is the math? Do the math for us. If we're averaging 16 miles an hour, so we're going to be on the road for how long?
It's about 7 hours, the ride together.
Yep. So, we're going to wind the clock together for 7 hours, but that it's not going to be measured in time. It's going to be a moment that we remember the rest of our life. And that's going to be a pretty special thing. And then habit number 7 is seed the clouds. So you guys, I'm excited about the book getting in your hands and you being able to read through it. Maybe what I'll do is just kind of share a couple of thoughts on those first 2 habits. Is that okay, Jeff? Because I think some of us are starting to get into the book. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I encourage all of us to. Again, there's about 30 of the guys that haven't received because they didn't register by 3 weeks ago or whatever. So they're going to get their copy of the book in July. But yeah, I think we're going to focus on the first couple sections, first 50, 60 pages for today's conversation, because there's another conversation in early August of part 2.
I love it. So part 1 tonight. Let me actually start with Kiss the Wave. And I'm going to make it personal tonight. And by the way, you're probably wondering, like, where did these habits come from? Well, Charles Spurgeon said, "I have learned to kiss the wave that throws me against the rock of ages." I mean, that's a powerful statement. And so, I live here in DC. I've pastored a church here on Capitol Hill. One church with multiple locations, but we live on Capitol Hill, and we've been doing that for about 25 years. And January 6th was an interesting day. A few things happened at the Capitol here, a couple of blocks from us. But that day for my wife and I actually started at the hospital. And my wife had a little bout with breast cancer about 4 years ago. And I write about it in the book. And it was around that diagnosis that she read a piece of poetry that said, that posed a question: "What have you come to teach me?" That is a hard question to ask of cancer or anything else. But here's the problem. I think a lot of us are trying so hard to get out of difficult situations that we never get anything out of difficult situations. And I think it's in the tough times that you got to learn the lessons. And so it's kind of crazy, guys, that the book comes out in November and my wife gets a second diagnosis with cancer. And it was a sucker punch because she did everything right. She worked so hard in that first round. Now, January 6th, we go in for surgery. And the good news is that she went through radiation. She rang the bell at the end of it. She's doing great. But man, we have learned some hard lessons over the past couple of years about kissing the wave. But I really believe that it's the hard things that sometimes we learn the most valuable lessons. You got to learn the lesson. You got to cultivate the character. You have to curate the change in those situations. And so I feel like this bike ride is kind of an opportunity to kiss the wave, right? To just do something that is a challenge that stretches us, and I think I'm pretty excited about that. So, um, yeah, Jeff, with that, maybe I'll kind of hand back off to you, and we can sort of poke at a couple of these different habits. And I'm even happy, a few years ago, God healed my asthma. I had severe asthma for 40 years. In fact, this is crazy. My earliest memory, guys, those of you that are in Minneapolis, this will ring a bell. I was living in New Hope, and my earliest memory is a trip to North Memorial Hospital, and had to get a shot of epinephrine because I couldn't breathe in the middle of the night. And after 40 years, God heals my asthma. So a couple of years ago, I ran the Chicago Marathon to celebrate that miracle. And I learned a lot about reverse engineering goals, and did a 6-month training plan, ran 475 miles in 72 runs. And so to me, I'm kind of approaching this bike century, Jeff, with sort of the same mindset that, I'm trying to plan the work and then work the plan. And we can certainly talk a little bit about that. But bottom line, guys, I'm excited to hop on a bike, break a sweat, and draft behind you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I thought I might lob some questions at you first, and then really I want to open up even now in the chat, and then in a few moments here after I hit a few questions, really to our team to ask some questions, and then we'll kind of wrap back around in about 20 minutes with me sharing some housekeeping for our team, just some things for you guys to know, and then me gathering your questions, because this is a year of scaling. And there are some of you that are like, I didn't even know this was happening, or I didn't know this yet. And so this is also part of the purpose of tonight, is to gather what questions you guys have in general for the ride. But let's talk about inputs versus outputs. And it's around that concept of reverse engineering. But all of us have a date attached to our ride. There's a few of us who are doing multiple cities, but most of us have a clear date, and we're going to help on a training plan side of, you need to hit your 70-mile ride here, you need to hit your 40-mile ride around here, and then some other tools to help them backwards plan. But when you think in general of, as a dad, and we're at different phases of fatherhood, but Mark, when you think of as a dad, reverse planning, thinking about leadership on the home front, helping our kids understand what we're doing, time investment, time management, along with other sides of that training, being ready, what thoughts come into mind when it comes to inputs versus outputs? And it could be both for the ride and for dad life in general.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. I think, I might even, let's widen the aperture just a little bit. If we're doing things for extrinsic reasons, those motivations eventually evaporate. Like you have to do things for those intrinsic reasons. And I don't care what you do. Like, if you live off a compliment, you're going to die by criticism, right? Like you can't live outside in. You've got to live inside out. And so I've always felt like that little verse where Paul says, we plant and water, but God gives the increase. Like, I feel like the outcome is up to God. The input is up to me. Like, God's not going to answer 100% of the prayers that I don't pray. You aren't going to accomplish 100% of the goals that you don't set. And so I'm a big believer in setting those stretch goals and going after certain outcomes. But then what you have to do is go right back to, what are the habits that I need to cultivate in my life as a dad, or even physical disciplines or habits to get to a goal. And so, I think my mind's going in a couple of different directions. We can't control our kids. They have to make their own decisions. Now, just to put it in context, my wife and I got married at 22 and 20. So like we were kids when we got married, and we have a 25, 23 and 19-year-old. And so as our kids have grown older, I think I've realized that, there's 1,000 things I can't control, but I want to be able to look in the mirror at the end of the day and know that I gave them the best part of me. Now, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay, because one of the most important skills we can teach our kids is how to apologize, how to say sorry. Well, how are they going to learn to do that if we don't make some mistakes and model how to say sorry to our kids? So don't beat yourself up too much over the mistakes you make. I go right back to, you'll never be a perfect parent, but you can be a praying parent. And so one thing I have done over the years is I prayed a little verse, Luke 2:52, for my kids. May you grow in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and with man. And so what are those inputs that you can put into practice that are going to pay off? One more thought, Jeff. This is my pastor hat on tonight. One of my concerns is that as a pastor, I can foster spiritual codependency. And what I mean by that is this, like, it's pretty easy to go to church, check a box, and then check out Monday to Friday. And you kind of live vicariously off of a pastor's sermon. But at the end of the day, the only ceiling on your intimacy with God and impact on the world is daily spiritual disciplines. And so it's those inputs, right? It's that daily Bible reading plan. It's that consistency in prayer that's going to make the difference at the end of the day.
And I think just as a few examples on the inputs, like intentional conversations with our kids. This is why I'm doing this bike ride versus my daughter's my bike behind me. They're like, giant. They just talk about it. They've named it Giant, and they think that's hilarious. Even though I did find this out, even though it's named Giant bikes actually are the smallest frames. The extra large frame on a Giant is one of the smallest, so it's not ideal. The name throws you off. But anyways, conversations with my girls. I've got 4 little girls. Why is dad doing this? Intentional conversations with those of us who are married, our spouse, about when are those training rides and can it flex or what this or that. So I think inputs on the home front, as well as inputs in so many other areas, Bible reading, prayer type inputs, like short-term versus long-term. That's what this whole book really unpacks, is how do we think, even though we can't see the future yet, we're believing for those outcomes, not the immediate. Now, suffering is an interesting topic that I want to chat about, Mark, and it's suffering. We can have suffering just come our way, and it's going to. All of us are going to suffer in different ways, whether that's an unexpected phone call that breaks our heart and leaves us on our knees crying and in prayer, or it's loss of a job, or it's this or that that's unexpected. We're actually choosing intentionally to suffer by doing this ride. And I'll just quick read this quote, that this is what you said about suffering. Suffering will find you soon enough. When it does, you must recognize that it has the power to enrich your life in a way that nothing else can. So why would we choose intentionally to suffer versus just let it come our way when it does?
Well, life and truth are so counterintuitive, aren't they? Like, if you didn't know better, like if I said to you, the way that you build muscle is by breaking it down, that makes no sense at all. But that's exactly the way that our bodies are designed. You have to break the muscle down in order to build it up. And I think in some ways, I think about Philippians 3, where it says, I want to know that the power of the resurrection, and we love that part, but the fellowship of suffering, we don't like that so much. But I do think that there is something about suffering that helps us identify with what Christ did on the cross for us. And I think it can deepen our experience a little bit. I should have died on July 23rd, 2000. I shouldn't be here. Uh, my intestines ruptured. I went in for emergency surgery in the middle of the night. I was on a respirator for 2 days. I lost 25 pounds in a week. Don't recommend that diet plan. I had to have, wow, how transparent should I get here?
Very.
I had to wear an ostomy bag for 6 months, guys. Like it was, and then I had to go through another surgery to reverse it. I have a scar that runs down my entire abdomen. So I might not have a 6-pack, but I do have a 2-pack. Okay. Right. It was the worst day of my life. And I would say it's one of the best days of my life because you come back from that and you just don't take anything for granted. Like you don't take your wife for granted. You don't take your kids for granted. You don't take a single day for granted. So I think how we handle suffering is so important. And, in a sense, yeah, we're doing something that's hard. We're inflicting some pain on these bodies of ours, but I think it's going to pay some dividends in the long run, and excited to be able to do that together.
And I have found, just to piggyback on that story, I found that when you suffer together, the bond that's formed is so much deeper. About 4 hours ago, I was on the front porch of one of our team members from last year. His name's Brian, and I trained. He was on my team. I trained with him. He showed up with a hybrid bike, and after about 2 months of training hard with that hybrid, he did buy a road bike because he's like, that's crazy. But he suffered. He suffered in training, and he pushed himself. And we grew close through that time of riding together. And he 6 weeks ago, massive brain tumor, 2 massive surgeries. He knows he won't be able to ride this year with us. His wife, though, by the way, they're doing the 40-day draw the circle prayer book, Mark, that's changed my life, and it's changing their life as well. They're going to come volunteer. He's like, we're going to be there at one of the rest stops because we want to cheer. We care about this cause. But the way that I have grown close to him, because we chose to suffer intentionally for a ride. Now when he's in suffering that he didn't choose, he's felt the strength of our team. Our 64 dads from last year have been praying for him. He's felt like we're much closer. And I just want to just awareness, the team of our size, there was already 160 dads who have committed to doing the ride this year. Likely that number could triple still because we're still pretty early in the registration process. Can you imagine the trajectory? Like guys, what if statistically, one of us is going to go through some major, major crisis in these next months? What if that conversation during a training ride was the strength, God's gift? So we choose to suffer, but the gift forward is we have that person to suffer with us and to cry with us. And I could go on with more stories, but Brian is cheering for us. And I just feel like it jumps me to another topic, which is dullness. I think sometimes Satan's goal might not be to get us to have an affair, not get us to do something evil. I think if Satan can just get us as dads dull, I think he wins, because our kids see a dad who's in survival mode, who's just he's just getting through the dad life. Kids see a grandpa, because some of us are grandpas on this call right now that are riding. They're grandpas. Satan's goal for any phase of fatherhood is to get them dull, not going after a bigger mission, not crying about anything that breaks their heart, not suffering intentionally for a good cause, not going deeper in brotherhood. Like that's his goal. And I guess, Mark, I'd love to invite you to just riff on that topic a little bit of like living fully alive versus just living to survive the day. So would you go into that a little further?
Yeah. Anybody see that Adam Grant article a few weeks ago in the New York Times about languishing? Like it in psychology, you've got flourishing, and then you have depression, and then you have this no man's land. It's kind of this aimlessness. And it's not mental illness, but it's not mental health.
Yeah.
It's this place of languishing. And I think Adam Grant was arguing that, coming out of a pandemic, and then even I think with the racial tension and the political polarization, I think it's almost created this perfect storm where a lot of people, I mean, a third of Americans say that they're anxious or depressed. And so, Jeff, when you say kind of this dullness, I think of this kind of place of languishing. And then I think of what Jesus said, I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And it's two-dimensional, by the way. It's quantitative, that he came to give us eternal life, but it's also qualitative. It's a life that just takes on a dimensionality that it's that joy unspeakable. It's the peace that passes understanding. It's a holy confidence. It's going after God-sized dreams. It's refusing to play it safe. Well, I mean, it's going after those things that you're going to look foolish unless God intervenes. I really think that's how God has created us to live. And so I think big dreams make big people. And that's part of why I think even a ride like this, and the fact that there's a cause coupled with it. Some of you may know that along with pastoring a church here in DC, we own and operate a coffee house in Capitol Hill called Ebenezer's. And pretty awesome having an office above a coffee house. Holy Spirit plus caffeine equals awesome is one of my favorite equations. And but what I love about it, and I think part of why God's blessed it, it's been voted #1 coffee house in DC multiple times, is because we give every penny of profit to kingdom causes. So we have a dream center in Ward 7. In fact, last year served 55,000 meals to those in need in our city. And it's our coffee house that helps fund that. And Jeff, all of that to say this, I think God's blessed it because it's coffee with a cause, and this is biking with the cause. And so I think what's great about this is it kind of gets us, if we are feeling like we're languishing, a 15 or 20 mile bike ride will get you out of any kind of dullness. In fact, you'll feel it in your quads and feel it in your hamstring. Should I even admit this? I don't even know if I should admit this, but last week we had our first baptism in about a year and change, again, because of COVID. I pulled a hamstring baptizing people. Like I was going down, and like the next day I'm like, man, my hamstring, I think I pulled my hamstring. And then we've got a guy, one of our campus pastors, he ran track at University of Virginia, and like he's pretty built. And he said, and he did the other half of the baptisms, and he said, man, I think I pulled a trap. Like I think I pulled a trap baptizing. So all of that to say, I'm still working on my conditioning a little bit. Anyway, sorry, that was stream of consciousness.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, and really though, if we listen to our desires and our body, I'm turning 40 this year. If we listen to that voice, our flesh, really, we're going to downshift and play it, take it easier this next year. That's what we're going to do. We're going to downshift. We're going to watch more Netflix. We're going to do more of this or that. We're not going to do harder things in the next year. And to your point, I mean, we keep it really simple. Fathers for the Fatherless, your registration fee covers kind of ride expenses, ministry overhead, your jerseys, like that kind of stuff. And then we get some sponsors to help because it's not enough to cover everything. All of the fundraising though, guys, all of it goes global and local. So each of our teams have prayerfully decided a local organization gets half the check. And then the global partner is Venture that we've talked about that has been doing this for 20 years. And so I just to remind you guys, like we are so clearly, we're going after a vision bigger than ourselves. We've said, let's go after, let's give $1 million away this year. We gave away $104,000 last year. Let's put a multiplication of 10, because only God, like we're setting only God type goals. And this is a big deal. Even tonight in this conversation is a big deal. I want to remind us though, and this is a question to jump over to Mark, one more question. And any chat though, you don't have to like perfectly word your question in the chat. You can just say, talk more about this. I'm curious about this. Like, so feel free to jump in the chat with that, and then we'll open it up. The question though is, we've got guys that are very into cycling, and then we've got rookies who are not into cycling at all. And right now, if you're just starting your training and you're a rookie, you're struggling to do 13 miles an hour and to accomplish 15 miles. Like, that's a real deal, the spectrum. And this quote just made me think about our team and the beauty of a team being diverse as far as age. We've got some guys that are pregnant, have not had a kid yet. You're in your young 20s. We've got guys who are grandparents, just turned 70, rocked. He biked his age. He turned 70. So this is the quote: every move we make, every risk we take sets the stage for someone else. Your brave is someone else's breakthrough. And I just want to, Mark, you to riff on this as far as our team and how this is not a race. This is a team ride. It's very hard, the distance and the speed. But how can we think with a mind frame around other team members' breakthrough, but even maybe it's a breakthrough that's going to happen 6 months later, like the one with Brian that I mentioned with his brain surgery, or our kids' breakthrough because they see a dad who's doing this. So yeah, just talk about the multiplied effect of us taking a risk to set the stage for someone else.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, what comes to mind, and this is kind of a core piece of the way that I feel like I'm wired, and a key piece of my theology. It's Joshua 3:5. It says, "Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow I'll do amazing things among you." And we want to do amazing things for God, but that's not our job. God is the one who does amazing things for us. Our job is just to consecrate ourselves day in and day out. And so I think the thing that excites me, I did do the quick math. 1,000,000 divided by 160 is 6,250. And I know we'll get more registrations, but man, I'm believing with you, Jeff. That's like a God-sized goal, 7 figures. And, I told you from the get-go, I want to be a piece of that puzzle. And so we're exercising faith. We're trusting that God's going to do something amazing. Each one of us is going to be a shareholder in this. And I think there's going to be a lot of synergy when we come together around that common mission and vision. And so I would just say, guys, let's all consecrate ourselves. Let's let God do what he does. But then we train hard. We train like it depends on us. We pray like it depends on God, and some good things are going to happen. And the kingdom's going to advance in some wonderful ways because of it. And you just never know. You just never know. That's the awesome thing about God's sovereignty. We just obey, and God has a way of showing up and showing off.
I love it. And I'd love to just invite all of you guys on right now, which is 50 of us. I mean, there's 50 of us from around the country who are like, I care about this cause. I'm on tonight, but there likely will be another, 150 that are going to watch, 100 to 150 that are going to watch this video later. I've just chosen for 21 days leading up to Father's Day, which is now, if I do the math right, we're like 17 days out from Father's Day, June 20th, just to do one specific thing that is a way of consecrating myself, of prayer for this mission, for this impact. And anytime I pray for the mission of Fathers for the Fatherless, half of that mission is that I would continue to become dad awesome for my girls. So it's on the home front, half the mission is that we are activated and filled with passion to be intentional fathers. The other half of the mission is the fatherless. So it's a 2-part mission. There's 2 wheels on that bicycle. Let's go. They're both very important for again, a generation of change for present fathers. But the thing I'm doing is I'm waking up at 5:20 a.m. and I'm doing a 2-mile walk prayer walk and done by 6, because my little girls get up at 6 o'clock. I got to be home by 6 to keep mama in bed. So for me, it's a 5:20 alarm for these 21 days, but it could be lunchtime alarm, pray for a couple minutes. It could be, I just love to invite all you guys though. Would you do something between now and Father's Day that would be a part of this act of saying, I'm going to join with my heart and with my prayers and with my even my schedule to consecrate ourselves, because we're going to know soon. I mean, really, the registration deadlines for Colorado and for Minneapolis are really, it's end of June, middle of July. So we're close to those deadlines are starting to come up. And it's just like, if the more we pray with our hearts, I think we'll work. We pray like it depends on God. I stole this quote. This is straight from Mark. We pray like it depends on God. We work like it depends on us. And part of that work is our recruiting and inviting and all that other side. And we're going to do the same with our fundraising. We're going to pray this bold $1 million prayer like it very much depends on God, because it's way beyond us. But we're going to work too. We're going to put our hands to the plow. We're going to fundraise and use the strategies that we found. And game on, game on. Let me do this. I want to open up. Here's one question came in the chat. Tell a few more stories about times when God came through with a massive answered prayer. Mark, I know these are scattered throughout all your books, but would you give us a story or two about, man, to fuel our faith for the $1 million, some God-sized answers to prayer that you've seen?
Yeah. Well, I think one big one is after 40 years, July 2nd, 2016, I pray a bold prayer. And I had prayed it hundreds of times, but guys, God healed my lungs. There weren't 40 days in 40 years that I didn't take multiple puffs of a rescue inhaler. I slept with it under my pillow. I played basketball with it in my sock. It was my earliest memory. And I have not touched an inhaler from that day to this day. And it's just unbelievable to me. So I believe in a God of miracles. And I will say this, can I just speak faith? Can I activate faith right now? I really believe that we're coming into a season where God is going to activate the gifts of the Spirit in an unprecedented way. Why? Because we need it. Because we need a supernatural demonstration of God's love and power. And Jeff, I might share one more just because it's timely. August of 1996, I'm reading Joshua 1:3. I'll give you everywhere you set your foot. And I feel inspired to pray a circle around Capitol Hill. And it ends up being a 4.7 mile prayer walk. And here we are 25 years later, and I never thought we would own property as a church, but we've got half a dozen properties that we own right on that prayer circle. That is not coincidence, it's providence. We've got Ebenezer's Coffee House on one corner. We own Miracle Theater right on that prayer circle. And so today, I have to do this quick, but we own a city block. We bought it for $29 million, didn't have a category for it, but God's vision for you is bigger than your vision. We built out phase 1 for $10 million. We built out phase 2, 20,000 square feet of kids ministry space for another $10 million. Jeff, if you do the math, that's $49 million, and we're debt-free as a church. Can someone explain that to me? And so today was the very first day that the demising wall came down and phase 2 delivered. And I walked into the space, and it was like this dream, this vision that started with a prayer 25 years ago is reality. And it's mind-boggling to me. And I know those are big numbers, but listen, I remember when our income as a church was $2,000 a month, and our salary was $400 a month. But you know what? I'm believing with you, I'm believing together with everybody on this call that we're going to hit that $1 million mark. And I want to be a shareholder in that. You know that. And so Lord, we pray it, we believe it, we ask it, and by faith for your glory, Lord, we don't know the names of all of the children that we can impact, but God, you know their names. And we pray for them even now. And so, Lord, by faith, we just believe together for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I am so thankful, Mark, and I've told you this before, and I said it publicly, but I'll say it again in front of these guys. Like, my last 9 years of my life, significant key moments, some of the things that you put on a page of a book was exactly the miracle answer. I mean, one example was right here in my living room. We had a couple over and tell us, hey, this is a 10-day investment of time. It was this prayer journey. It was 10 days with a prayer counselor. It was crazy to take 2 weeks off of work. And I was doing the Draw the Circle book. And I heard them share that, and we said, that's crazy. It can't be for me because of my work schedule. 10 days. What? And then they leave the next morning, and they were here late, and I was passionate about what they were doing, this prayer ministry. I was like, that's not for me. And I'm reading the next morning. You said, if you pray about anything for 10 days, you're talking about Jesus, the time from when he resurrected to the Pentecost fire dropping and the Holy Spirit dropping. You're like, if you pray about anything for 10 days, you're bound to see fire drop. Or the quote I'm messing up, but you know what I'm talking about. And so I read that, and I walked directly up the stairs to my wife, and I said, I'm all in. I'm going to take 2 weeks of vacation time, spend $2,000. I'm going to do this prayer journey. And that was a massive pivot moment before I became a dad and before in career. And so, guys, I just want to encourage you. The miracles could look like physical healing, could look like financial provision, could look like a pivot to saying yes to something that you usually would not say yes to. And that is that's miracle climate. That's a climate for a massive miracle that your kids benefit from. So I could ramble on other miracle stories, but that's one intersection point with your story, Mark. I want to go into just some housekeeping. I know we were going to open mic it for more questions, but there's still almost 50 of us on, which this is one of my first, this style of a Zoom. So let me just make sure we all on the same page. The first is, some of you guys got a text message at like an hour ago that said, hey, don't forget about the call. That means you're opted into our text list. Some of you didn't because you haven't opted in. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you at all feel like I'm spamming you, you just type stop and then you're off the text list. But I want to have the ability to nudge you guys with resources so you're ready for your rides. So this is the number that you text. You guys ready for this? Let's see. I'm gonna ask. Ready, Taylor. Taylor, put this in the chat while I say it out loud. 651-370. 8618. That's the number. So you text that number, 651-370-8618. So that's the number. And you just text this. This is what you have to text. And it's because it gets you onto the right list. F4F 21 team. That's it. Just F4F 21 team. Now you're opted in. So that's just one housekeeping thing of communication. Some of you on the call tonight, you have not launched your fundraisers yet because you haven't been invited to yet. We've only launched Minnesota, the fundraiser. So no worries. Some of you are not on Slack yet. So you're not getting training updates and training rides. It's because we haven't launched that beyond Minneapolis. We're doing them staged based on when we launch cities and when people register. So Colorado, I'm late. Tomorrow, you're going to get your onboarding because the Colorado team, I just am a little behind my schedule this week. But there's just so you guys know, it's going to be phased. You're going to get a welcome video with next steps for your fundraiser, for communication. That text, though, is for all of us, all cities. You're going to text again, 651-370-8618, and just text F4F 21 team. Okay, so that's just some communication backdrop. I would love to know, what questions do you guys have? You signed up for this thing. You're in different cities, and I just take a few moments. You can either chat your questions, or you can just unmute and say, hey, I was thinking about this, or hey, have you thought about this? Because right now, with 160 of us on the team, and this is only our third year of this thing, we've never scaled to other cities. There's bound to be questions. You're just like, hey, I'm curious. You're like, hey, why did I not get the book? You mailed it to 129 dads. Why did I not get mine? And the reason for that is we mailed them out on April 16th, and you hadn't registered by then. So I'll answer that one. But I'd love to hear, what questions are you guys like, hey, I'm confused. Why don't I have my jersey yet? Or any questions or fair game questions right now for the next 9 minutes. Ready? Okay, when do we order or send in sizes for our kits? Great question. Easy thing for me. I just haven't told you guys the answer to this yet. And this is also going to help me with other emails, just like FAQs. So you guys, when we close registration for your city, which you're going to hear about that because I make sure you know when we're closing registration for your specific city. It's June 27th for Minneapolis is that date at midnight. The next day is when your kits are due. Now you're going to be invited about a week before that. There's a week time period that you have to go on, use a code that we give you and log your sizes for your jersey and your bib shorts. That's all included. You pay like $12 shipping. So you do have to pay the shipping, and then you can choose to add gloves or a hat or a jacket. We got a few accessories if you want to choose to add stuff, but that is the answer. Is it's like the day after your registration closes is when we order all those. So there's a window of about a week though that you'll have to upload those, and we'll make sure you get that info. Great question. All right, next question. There's got to be other questions. We did have some people miss that, by the way, last year, not order their kit and have nothing to wear. They had to go shirtless for the whole. Kidding. We gave them the old jersey.
Jeff, I got a question for you.
Do it, Taylor.
Through just the sign up process and just onboarding and stuff like that, you mentioned getting into like ride captains and like little pods of like flocks of smaller groups. At what point in the ride do we kind of organize that and get in crews together?
Yep. Great question, Taylor. So we're organic right now with all these training rides. Minneapolis tomorrow, National Global Bike Day. Tyler's just like, let's go. And we use Slack to communicate all those. Mark, for you, there's nothing in DC but you. So you got to fly out if you want to join one of our deals. But in each city, that's all going to get started in every city. So they'll be in Philadelphia, New York, Colorado, the other ones. It's organic right now. As soon as we close registration, that's when we divvy up the team. So for example, River Valley is one pod in Minnesota, and there's going to be several ride teams within River Valley that you'll get assigned to. And that's how we make sure that everyone has brotherhood. They know all the names of the guys they ride with. So those teams get picked in early July. So you'll basically have about 2 months of time to have a ride team. You don't have to train with them. You can train with them, but you're gonna ride with them the day of your ride team. So that's why we wait till registration closes. Is we are actually actively recruiting who are going to be those ride kind of captains, and it's cycling experience mixed with friends of friends that vouch for you, and we basically help divvy out everybody into a ride team, about 8 guys. So for example, again, Mark flying in from DC, he'll be assigned a ride team with a few others that he might be in the fly-in team. The other people who are flying in that day, there's a few others that I already know of. So we'll figure that all out. We'll match you up and we'll introduce you to your ride team about a week after registration closes. Great question. Okay, another question came in, which is how do we get our fundraisers set up for our specific cities if we're not Minneapolis? And that's we're just a little bit backlogged. They will all be set up the week before Father's Day, which is like next week. So that is top priority, is to get you your info. Even if your registration hasn't closed in New York or in Arizona, we're going to get you your info a week before Father's Day. I think that's this Sunday. No, I might have a week and a half out, because we want on Father's Day us to say, hey, instead of buying me a new belt buckle, which is so old, no one does that. No one does that. We want you to actually use Father's Day as a point and say, this is what I care about. As a father, I'm doing this ride. Would you join me in giving to this cause? So we want Father's Day to be a giving day. And we're going to encourage you guys to give to your own campaigns on Father's Day, to say, I'm all in. I'm giving $400. I'm giving $300, whatever you can give. Would you join me and give towards this? So Father's Day is the day that we make a big splash with our giving. Slack channel. Again, if you're not in Minnesota, you haven't been invited to Slack. That's all coming out at the same time as the giving update is Slack. Slack is not going to do you any good in your city until we get your leaders on board with the training rides. But that is our tool that allows you to get bike tips, answers on those questions, fundraising questions. Slack is the tool that we're using to make sure you get the information. I call it the bike shop experience. You can go be around knowledgeable people that know a lot more than I do about these different specific things, and you can ask your questions. It's also how we organize training rides. So Slack invites, just going to be a link in an email that you can sign yourself up for a free account. And Slack is our tool for communication. We're text a few things. Slack everything, and email a couple really important things, but some of those go to spam. So I can't count on email. I need you guys on Slack to make sure you know the information. So great question. Ryan, I owe you that. I owe you that email. Graphics, if anyone needs, I'm going to put them in Slack as well, actually. Graphics, videos, things to help promote. If anyone wants to borrow the jersey off my back to make a promo video for their giving, Taylor, that's a shout out to you, man. I will loan you the jersey off my back. Tomorrow morning, I'm riding with this jersey on. So if you need it tomorrow for a picture, photo op, it's all yours. Other questions?
Will you wash it before I borrow it?
We'll have to find like a puddle tomorrow and just wash it and hand it off to you. Yeah, I will. Great question. Oh, suggested training plans. Great question. Yes. The advantage of partnering with Venture, who's our global partner, is they have 20 years of experience helping teams of rookie cyclists ride across the country or ride to Chicago or ride here or there. So they are creating those for me. They're just not done yet. So we are going to have them, and you can Google Century Play. You can do a little on your own if you want, but we will have them. And we're going to give you the benchmarks, the 40 mile, the 70 mile. And then we're going to recommend some things on speed as well. So you just think, if you're riding by yourself, you got to think the 16 miles an hour, but if you're, or you got to think 14 miles an hour, I'm sorry. Because when you're riding a pod, you're going to get some added efficiency. And when there's DJs at every stop, that just helps all of us pedal faster the next stop when there's a party waiting for you. So great question. There will be training plans. These are great questions, guys. We've got final minute or two of questions. We're packing this in. Just hop off mute if you've got one. Here comes one. Yeah, we're going to do some climbing, but Colorado's actually not that bad. So the question is, Colorado, how much climbing? What's the vert? Philadelphia looks like the worst route yet, as far as the amount of climbing. The mountains, foothills, or plains is what they gave me for options in Colorado. And I chose, because I'm doing the ride and it's a mile high already, I said plains. I said, let's do a ride in the plains because we're already 6,000 feet. So that is actually one that we have not gone public yet, though, our route. So it's a great question. Kevin, I'll be getting you more info by next week on your routes for Colorado. Nobody asked about e-bikes because the answer is no. Stops. We do a number of stops we do a 30 mile, like a 58 mile, and like a 75 mile. So we do 3 stops, 3 key stops. We do a quick 10 mile stop to take off jackets, but that's approximately how every local team will be putting that together. But yeah, there will be stops, great food, it's a party. Be safe. That is the one thing I didn't mention, guys. We are over and over and over again, Fathers for the Fatherless. We are going to be the safest group of cyclists on the roads, and we're praying for safety, and we're choosing safety as we ride, because there are drivers that have all different approaches to thinking when they see a cyclist on the road. So guys, be super safe. Let's play it conservative, and we're super safe the day of the 100 mile, but I just want us to be like prayerful about this and to be cautious as we're getting on the roads as we start training. So